Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So today, a little bit different. I'm going to be looking at some of the paintings of other artists. Now all of these paintings, there's 5 paintings in total, are all watercolor paintings, and they're all paintings that I have taken some inspiration from, or some ideas from. So like I say, 5 paintings, 5 different artists. These are all, I think, contemporary artists. I think most, if not all of them, are still alive and still working. I should also say I'm probably going to butcher some of the names of these artists, so apologies for that. So the first one is Alvaro Castanet, and this painting, so I put this painting as number 5 because there's parts of it that I really like, and then there's parts of it that I don't like. So the top half of the painting I really do like. I like the color scheme, that sort of, I guess, monochromatic color scheme. I like the way there's parts of it where there's detail, or at least implied detail. I really like implied detail in paintings. I also like when the detail sort of disappears into a fuzziness or into shadow, as it does in this painting. Because I think if there's too much detail in the painting, for us, the viewer, it's like being spoon-fed. We're not doing much work. I think it's better to have the viewer have to interpret parts of the painting, or to figure out what's going on, fill in some of the details, that type of thing. That gives us some interaction with the painting, I think. So some of the things, as I say, there's bits that I don't enjoy so much. The car, or the front of the car, sticking into the painting. I'm not a big fan of cars. I don't like cars on buses and trucks. It's one of the things that puts me off doing cityscapes myself. So I like the buildings, I like the people, I just don't like all the traffic. So the car sticking in the front end of the car doesn't do anything for me with this painting. I don't really like, there's a lot of watercolor artists do painting cityscapes where you have the cars with the bright red tail lights and things, or the bright red or the bright white headlights on the car and things. Again, I don't really like that. The characters, the figures in this, I really like the 3 characters in the background. They're very simple, but they're believable. We can look at them and say, yes, those are people, and we can almost imagine them moving. The other thing that I don't like about the painting, though, is this other character that's closer to us. So my feeling is that if a character is this close to the viewer, the character really needs to have a face. So just a sort of orangey brown brushstroke, it doesn't work for me. I need to see at least some indication of a face, and hopefully even some expression on that face, so that we can read it as a character, as a human being. With the more distant characters, you can get away with just an orangey brown brushstroke or whatever, because they're too far away. We can't see expressions and details of the face. But the closer one, it doesn't work for me. So that's why I put this painting as number 5. There's parts of it that inspire me and I really enjoy, but then there's a couple of bits that don't work for me. So this next painting by an artist that I only found out about quite recently, so Nicolas Lopez. A lot of his art is again very sort of monochromatic and can be quite dark. So those aspects are very different from the sort of things that I'm painting at the moment. and I prefer much brighter things. But there is something about the contrast between this light and the light shining in, sort of pouring in through this archway, this opening, and the darkness. It does create that interesting sort of difference between light and dark. So that's something that, I would then start to think, can I in some way incorporate that into my own art in some way? Another thing I really love about his art is the texture. With watercolor we can't do things like Van Gogh did, with the thick impasto oil paint. You just can't do that with watercolor, really. But there are other ways in which you can add sort of texture and interest to watercolor paints. And you can see he's added some here. It could be scratches. Some people will add salt or soapy water, different things to create, even just water itself, to create different textures as the paint starts to dry on the paper. So certainly that is something else in this painting that would inspire me to try and create something similar in my own paintings. The next one, very different, Wendy Arden. It's quite minimalist, and that I think is the thing that really appealed to me about this painting. There's just enough in there to let us understand what we're looking at. So we still have to do a lot of work as the viewer. And again, it's a very monochromatic painting. And there aren't really hard edges. It's all, different values give the edges rather than painting lines and things. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. And again, although it's not exactly a cityscape, I suppose these are Roman ruins or ancient buildings. But they are buildings, but it's very different to the other sort of landscape or cityscapes that we've already seen. So really, the thing that I'm taking from this painting is minimalism and how to use values, different values, on a very limited palette to let the viewer understand what it is that they're looking at, but still leave a lot of details that need to be filled in. So then number 2. Now this artist, I'm not sure what the name is exactly. I've seen it written as Serge Hohnerbach and also Serge Hohnerbach, so either an R or an N. The painting is signed, but I can't read what it is here. I'm not sure if that's an R or an N or something else. I'm not sure. But anyway, the things that I love about this painting. So again, it's very simple, but it's also very believable. I mean, we know, just looking at this, we can see these are figures, these are human figures. And the postures and the way, for example, this guy's leaning on the railing, it looks so natural and real. And the guy, whatever his name is, who painted this, he obviously understood the human figure and how to paint or draw or sketch the human figure in a way that was believable. Then again, the other thing I like about this are the simplicity. So for example, a single brushstroke for the fishing rods, the way that this sort of railing or fence is being painted in or sketched in is very simple, and this bucket is just sort of 3 lines and a messy sort of ellipse, dark ellipse. But it works really well. We understand it as the bucket or the fence. This style of art, it has that somewhat unfinished feel about it. And one of the criticisms against the Impressionists in the early days was that People didn't like their art because it felt unfinished. And at that time, people were very used to the more sort of academic style, a very finished artwork where brush strokes are pretty much invisible and everything's very, very academic. I prefer this looser, sort of fresher approach because it just feels more alive. Sometimes the academic artwork, although it is technically very impressive, artistically it doesn't do much for me. It feels a little bit dead sometimes. It's a little bit maybe too real, if that makes sense. I'm not a fan of photorealist paintings or drawings. In fact, I really don't like photorealism paintings and drawings. I much prefer something like this, something that's much more sketchy. Okay, so then the final number one painting was this one. And again, I love it for the colors, the sort of abstractness of the whole painting. Again, the fact that we have to look at it to see what's going on. It's not an abstract painting, it is a landscape. But it's not immediately obvious what's going on. You have to do a bit of interaction with the painting, a bit of thought to make sense of it. But I love the sky, I love the clouds, the colours in the sky, the brushwork. Now this artist, I'm not really sure who the artist is. The only thing I can find is this, and I'm not sure. First of all, I thought maybe this was a name, but then I thought, well, maybe it's actually the initials of the artist. And the only other thing I could find was on the website. So I'm guessing it's a she. And she was born in Germany. She has German mother, English father, studied in Munich, London, actually studied sciences initially as a concession to her parents, and then sort of switched to art and seems to have been influenced, in part at least, by Rodin, and then went on to study a fine art diploma in a couple of different art schools in London. So again, as I say, I'm not really sure who the artist is, but I love, and I'm going to say her because it seems to be her. I love her paintings and drawings also. So if you get a chance, check out the website, and it was just jym-art.com. To me, the art is very, very inspiring, the watercolors and the landscape oil paintings. And it is that very loose sort of impressionist style that I love. Okay, so I think the main thing today was just maybe how we can be inspired by other artists, not in a slavish way, not trying to slavishly copy other people's styles, but to look at their style and think, what aspects of it do I like, and can I take those ideas and try and experiment with them to help develop my own style. And I think, a lot of people say, I don't have a style, and how do I get a style? I think it's just painting as much as you can, and your own style will eventually evolve and come out, and once you find it, you'll have found it, sort of thing. Although it could change over time as well. So if you look at many artists, they didn't have one style. If you look, for example, one of my favorite artists was Monet, and if you look at his early paintings and his later paintings and the paintings in the middle, they're all very different. So I wouldn't fret too much about this idea of having a style. Just be inspired, experiment, and do your own thing, I think. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. As I say, a bit different. If you'd like to subscribe, just click the big red button below, and you can click on the bell icon if you want to know when I next upload a video.